Hi guys. Many of you probably know me as Moji. I now go by Moggy. I just want to start this video off by it's not an easy video to make, so I apologize if there's a lot of stuttering, if I don't speak clearly, just anything of the sort. Because honestly, it's not a video I wanted to be making or ever dreamed of making. But that being said, it's not a clout video. I'm posting this on an off YouTube account. It's not on my main account. It's not going to be listed. It'll be unlisted. Um, it's none of that. It's not a fuck DM Brandon rally video. It's just me talking. Um, and mostly why I left Juice and why I stayed quiet for months, because if I was really looking to do something, I don't think I would have stayed quiet for months, to be honest. I'm just not the type of person to want to cause issues or attack people. Because as a person who's made my own mistakes, I have tried to answer for them and whatnot, and that's why I think ultimately I'm doing this video, is just to get everything out there and be able to move on, and uh, you know, whatever happens afterwards, deal with it. This is my choice to make the video. No one's telling me to make the video. I'm not doing it in response to anything, because I know recently something came up with Frost. It's not because of Frost. It's not any of that. I just want to share my side of the story and things that have happened. And I want to try to do this without as many, if any editing, jump cuts, just one continuous take. So if I do pause and it seems weird, it's just because I don't want to do jump cuts. And I don't want to pull receipts. I just don't want to get to that point where I have to pull receipts and shit like that. So I just think that's drama. I think that shit is drama. And I don't want this video to be about drama. But yes, I'm mostly here to speak about my interactions with Brandon. I will try to keep the video as short as I can. I've known him for many years, I think 5 years. So it would be really easy to make a 5-hour video, but I don't want to do that. There is something that I will exclude from all of this, as it is something I want to deal with in private with someone, and it's their decision to make, not mine. But yeah, again, it's not a witch hunt. It's no personal vendetta. I don't want to get to that point. I just want you guys to think about stuff and hold people accountable and call people out on things that suck. If I was doing it, call me out. Let me answer for that. But also there's a guy cutting grass outside, so if you can hear that, I apologize. I'm tired of seeing the way Brandon acts dismissed as it's just a game. It's just randoms attacking him. Because for a long time, I thought it was the same thing. And I'm not saying random people have not attacked him. Of course, a lot of people do get hate. I'm not just saying everything should be dismissed like that. But as you guys know, I was on the side of I was on Twitter and I was on these, on my stream saying, you guys don't understand. It is just a game. People are, he's just getting mad at a game, shit like that. And I meant it, just so you guys know. I 100% meant what I said back then. I'm not gonna pretend that I said those things and I didn't mean it. I did. And honestly, that's why the video is difficult to make, because I'm speaking against someone who I thought was my brother. And that's not easy to do. When I joined Juice, I was very naive. I would like to say I've grown very much as a person since I've joined. And this is not to take away the memories of being there, or anything like that. Like I said, it's not a hate video. And I took Brand's advice as advice at the time. If I would do something, he would message me why not to do it, or whatever. And honestly, I did think it was advice at the time. I thought he was looking out for me, and maybe he was back then. As time goes on, I don't think it was that anymore. I think maybe he was just worried about his image of something that I would do, since I was associated with him. Like I said, not really knowing anything with my upbringing, I did think like, yeah, you know, it's clearly like he's just looking out for me and I'm being stupid. And if I just stopped being an idiot, then whatever, you know, things would be better. And I just didn't really want to put that pressure on him, like my responsibility on him, because he would often say like, I don't want to lecture you, I don't want to be a dad. And I took that to heart, you know, like I don't want to burden someone who was what I thought was being kind. Because he did fly us out places. I didn't ask, you know, I didn't, as far as I remember, I never really asked him of much. I didn't ask him to fly me out places. He did it because he said he wanted me to get experience, whatever. And I do still really appreciate that because it did get me out and I did get experience. Um, but as I got experience, I think that's where things started to change. Because I start having basically my own opinions. And whenever I would try to like have a conversation with him and kind of challenge his opinion, it would either be dismissed and kind of turned back on me in terms of like, well, if I didn't do this, you know, whatever. And or just be completely ignored. Now again, I took that as something that I did. Like I thought it was my fault for a long time. And I'm not saying that I was never 100% at fault for something. And it's just that I realized that there wasn't a lot of open communication between Brandon. And I think that's a pattern that is kind of obvious to me now as I've been gone, that you can't really approach him with things, you can't discuss things because it's either shut down or dismissed entirely. I understand now why people say it's an echo chamber. I really didn't at the time. I honestly didn't understand why people were saying that. I thought, you know, I was reaching out to him and talking to him and he was answering, but then I just realized like it wasn't that. Like there would be things like he would try to invite me out. Like this was after, you know, I all the times prior. Like this is maybe like 3 years into Juice or something like that, where I was starting to have my own opinions and my own feelings on things. And he would just like randomly hit me up like, hey, do you want to go somewhere? Like, or let's go somewhere. And I would turn it down because I just started my stream. You know, I was only 2 or 3 hours into my stream. And I didn't want to break that obligation to my stream because at the time, if I was streaming, I wanted to stream the whole 8 to 10 hours that I told myself I had to do. I was very unhealthy back then with how I streamed. And when I would say no, he ended up just calling me a flake. And that was honestly, it was hard to deal with because I would try to tell him like I'm just trying to stream and then it would just get dismissed. That's when I realized like he wasn't really listening to my side of things or how I felt. And this is a pattern that continued for a while. And it's why I decided to actually leave Juice. I did solely leave Juice because of Brandon. Like I said, there's a lot I could say, but I want to just mention a few key things. And this is more towards the end of Juice. At the end of my time with Juice. A couple of his mods approached me. And like I said, I don't want to pull names. I don't want to pull receipts. I don't think that's it's not the intention. But, and they also want to remain anonymous, so I do want to respect that. And they just didn't like how he was acting. They thought he was getting more angry and more aggressive. And I think they were honestly just concerned, but they didn't know how to approach him because he got scary to approach. Like, even myself at that time when these people were asking me to talk to him, I myself no longer felt like I could really talk to him. Due to like when I would try to, it would get dismissed and ignored. And I just thought like, well, what's the point? You know, like if he's not going to listen and I just don't know how to express anything. Because if it's one-sided, then why would I, you know? It really just was discouraging. And, sorry, it's not easy to talk about. But yeah, I told him, like, people aren't happy with how you're acting on stream. And maybe he thought it was a personal attack on him. Maybe he thought I was reaching out to these people and like asking their opinion on Brandon, which I never did. I never went around asking people like what they thought of Brandon. And he said to me like something like, all you do is sit around and cause drama. And it was just so shocking because I thought I was just looking out for a friend. You know, I thought I was just, because if it was me, if my mods were afraid to talk to me, I would want someone to tell me that I wouldn't want them to feel like they couldn't reach out to me. And, or like at the very least, like I just want to know. And I thought, you know, that I could do him the common courtesy to let him know that, you know, some people are not happy and let him address it however he wanted to. I didn't tell him how he should address it, anything like that. I think I just simply said, you should talk to your mods. But yeah, that kind of blew up in my face. And it just continued the trend of I didn't feel comfortable to really talk to him as much anymore. And I kind of just really distanced myself and broke off from trying to rely on him entirely. There was a few glimmers of hope where I thought like maybe he would like listen and turn around, but now that I really look back on it, it got turned back on me as well. For example, I was supposed to be on that D&D campaign. I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but during Friendsgiving that we had, we were all together in real life. And we talked about the D&D campaign. Sorry, I need some water. All this talking sucks. But we talked about the D&D campaign together. And I said I'd like to be on board, whatnot, because I thought it'd be really fun to do. We tried something prior in the past. It was exclusively a juice thing. This was something else, like it was just a couple of juice kids and then more people outside. So I thought it'd be really cool to like just meet other people as well, so I definitely wanted to be on board. As time goes by, like Friendsgiving obviously ends, and as we go back to like living separately, you know, I'm messaging him in the group like, hey, what's the D&D thing? Like, what's going on? You know, just let me know what I need to do. And he was ignoring it. And I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know what I did. He ignored all of it until the campaign actually started. And eventually we meet up face to face. And I told him, like, it really hurt my feelings. And I only really found the confidence to say this because I was prior talking to someone else about it in the group in Juice. And he reached out for me to tell Brandon that I was upset because at that point I didn't know how to do it anymore. And we all ended up having dinner together, and because the person I reached out to, you know, told him that I was upset, he said he was sorry for it, he apologized, but then it was immediately followed by like, it also hurts my feelings when you don't tell me about your contracts, because I signed a shitty contract with some company that like I ended up not really following through with. And I told him like I didn't want to bother him with that. Like I was trying to really be independent at that time. Like I just really just wanted to break free of like bothering him and whatnot. And it still seemed like I was doing the wrong thing. Because I don't know. It never felt like what I was doing was the right answer. And somehow it ended up always being my fault. And I say that as someone who like for a long time took a lot of responsibility for it and only blamed myself. Like I always thought, yeah, he was in the right and I'm just being stupid. Through therapy, I've only found out that like I was too hard on myself and he didn't really take any responsibility. And I'm still in therapy trying to deal with a lot of this because that's how traumatic it was for me once I left. So that happens, and I don't know how much time passed between that because it just all blurs together at this point. But eventually the PBAT thing happens. And it was sort of a similar situation where people came to me again wanting to know what was happening. Like they wanted to know Brand's stance on it. They wanted to know our stance on it. Because we were being quiet for the most part. Even I was being quiet on Twitter. Because I didn't know what to believe. And I didn't want to just go against PBAT right away. Because it was just like one person came forward. And I was like, okay. I don't know the full story. I'm not the bestest of friends with PBAT, but he deserves to like at least defend himself and say something. T-Bat never says anything, obviously, where it's like a half-ass apology. And then people are really like, okay, so what are you guys' stance on it? And I tell them that, and again, that doesn't go very well. Because Brand tells me all you do is sit in Discord and cause drama. And that was so upsetting to me because at the time I was just so depressed that I was getting up, maybe eating, and then streaming, and then going to sleep. Like, I completely stopped hanging out in Discords altogether. I haven't really hung out in chat in Discords for probably 3 years now. So that leads to a big fight. I get really emotional. You know, we're just going back and forth on the whole thing. And I end up getting, like I said, I got really emotional. And I say, I really want to fucking punch you in the face right now. I would never do it. Especially for how much I cared for Brandon and how much love I had for Brandon. I would never actually punch him in the face. I was just that upset. He tells me to grow up. It's whatever. It kind of dies out after that. Later on, he comes to my house unannounced. And I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing. I'm just saying as someone who never did that to other people, like, I would always text my friends I'm coming over. Just give them the respect that maybe they're doing something and they don't have time right now. Excuse me. Sorry. So I didn't want to talk to him at the time because I was just too distraught. Like, we just had this argument and it wasn't really going anywhere. And I felt like I was blamed again for something that I was just trying to help. And he ends up leaving that night. I'm sorry. Like, it's just I'm remembering a lot of like the reasons I know now, like, but I didn't know back then, and it's just like it's still hard to process. He ends up leaving, and I asked Salem the next day, like, what was that about? And she tells me it's about he wanted to come over and talk about Twitch contracts, which I thought was insanely odd at the time, considering that we just had this fight. But I just figured it's like one of those things, like, he was trying to see what was going on, and I guess help me. I don't know. And that was pretty much the night everything fell apart, and the big reason why I left Juice, but I didn't know it at the time. Because as time goes on, he starts not responding to things I'm saying. Like, he would ask in Slack, like, who wants to play a game? I got a code. And I'm like, yeah, I'll play with you. Because, like, that's normally what would happen. Like, he would ask people to play, and we'd join in and play the game together. And I'd say, yeah. And then it would get ignored. And this felt like the D&D thing again, where it's like, I'm trying to reach out. And at the time, I was like, okay, maybe he's still just mad because, like, we didn't really resolve it. You know, we didn't talk about it. Maybe he's just mad. I understand that. I respect that. And then more time passes, and just odd things start happening. Like, I notice other JCOM members come down. And normally, like, when JCOM comes down, we'd all hang out, whatever. They would go off with him and do their own I wasn't getting invited anywhere. Or, like, things would happen where he would go to, like, an actual Juice person's house or whatever, and I wasn't invited, and that was very odd to me because, like, normally all these plans, like, we always met up because we don't get to see, like, I don't get to see other Juice kids all that often. I don't get to see JCOM all that often, you know, like, it's just something that always happened. Like, it was just normal to hang out together, and then that wasn't happening anymore. And I still thought, okay, maybe it's just like, just still mad, you know? Like, I really didn't know. That was what I thought. But then Bacon's wedding comes up, and I'm on the same flight as him, but I didn't even know because we're not talking. And we get to the terminal, and I see him, Kelsey, and Salem, and I was just so surprised that we literally had the same exact flight. We walk over and say hi, and Salem and Kelsey say hi, but Brandon never looks up from his phone. And that's kind of like where it clicked for me, like, all this is intentional. Because this is the first time we were face to face since it all happened, and this was like where it could basically turn around if it was meant to be. But the entire, like, we take the flight, we don't, you know, share an Uber, we don't do anything like that, which again was something that we'd carpool, whatever. again, like, I'm not saying like you have to do these things, like you don't have to invite people anywhere, you don't have to carpool with them, but when it's a normal pattern, when you always do those things and suddenly it stops with no explanation, um it's hurtful and it definitely feels intentional. But the wedding happens and we don't interact with each other at all. And people definitely noticed because I got messaged afterwards, like, what's going on, you know, and I couldn't answer them. I had no idea what was going on. Um, so that happens, and then I was still trying to, like, be supportive and be around. And I never really flexed my mod or flexed that I was an editor. I just quietly did the things that he needed. And he never asked me. Like, I would just ban people and change titles because if I wasn't streaming and I was watching a stream, it was just a friend helping a friend. So I went to change his title one day because he was streaming Smite and switching games and was asking if anyone could change his titles. And it's, you know, understandable. Like, it's really nice to have people change your titles. That's why I have a bunch of editors too. And I went to go do it, and I realized like I didn't have access to the dashboard anymore. Like, I couldn't change titles, and it was very odd because I was never told why I was removed from editor. It's definitely not like, oh, I was just purging all my editors because it's me. You know, like, I'm Juice. Like, why would I get removed from that? So again, like, that was another like thing that clicked for me. Like, this is intentional, and I don't know what to do because I no longer feel like I can talk to you. If I do talk to you, it gets thrown back on me, and you know, like I was explaining earlier, eventually I do, and this is like months later, I do find the courage to finally like message him over a text, and I don't want to look up the text message, so I'm just trying to remember as best as I can what happened. I mean, I remember exactly his response because I will never forget that. But what I said, I mean, I don't really want to look for it. Like I said, it's still painful to think about these things and look at them. So I'd prefer not to drag up receipts and shit like that. But I said like, hey, I think we should talk face to face. And I think I even put a heart because I was just trying to really extend like, I'm not mad. I just want to talk about it. And I was in the understanding, like when I sent this, that I could talk to him and still not agree with him and still leave Juice, but maybe it could be on a like level playing field. Like, maybe it could just be on good terms. Like, okay, we don't see eye to eye anymore. Let me just leave and you do your own thing. Whatever. And then he replies back. I laugh at it now, but at the time I was just so shook. Um, he replies back, "You didn't say happy birthday to Kelsey," which is true, I didn't. And I'm sorry to Kelsey that I didn't really communicate with her during that time. The reason I didn't is because I didn't want to drag her into like me and Brand stuff because I figured she like would know. I figured she would know that I wasn't going places anymore. I wasn't hanging out. Like, I figured she saw that there was something there. And she's not a person who likes drama, and that's understandable. So I just like try to leave her out of that entirely by not communicating with her, even not even saying happy birthday. Was it probably the right thing to do? I don't know, but it wasn't like malicious. I wasn't like fuck Kelsey, you know, like just but I go to him. I didn't, but you know, like, and I was confused because this was supposed to be about me and him. You know, we haven't talked in months, like literally, like I think it's like 5 months now, 6 months, and for that to be the first thing he says, that's what I mean. Like, it's this pattern where it gets like turned back on you. There's no open communication, and then it's just somehow your fault. And I said something like, I didn't, but if Kelsey has a problem, me and her can talk about it. What about me and you, or something like that? And he said, you had your chance, I'm done now. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't, if that I was gonna get kicked the next day. I didn't know if like he would never speak to me again. I didn't know what any of it meant. So I just kind of sat there and I never replied because I didn't know how to. And then I honestly thought I was gonna get kicked from Juice, but I ended up staying another month because I was just in limbo, confused. Someone who I used to talk to and trust in and believe in, like, wasn't there anymore. And none of the Juice kids, I guess, really knew because it was kind of hard to see, I guess. Maybe it just looked like two friends weren't talking. But It was definitely very hurtful. And I was afraid to honestly share this story because people often get told, like, you're just being dramatic, you're just doing it for clout. And that was never my intention, because if that was my intention, I would have done it when I left. I'm doing this months later because I just want to be done with it. I do just want to move on from everything that happened. And I tried to for a long time and I stayed quiet. Even when I found out that he was shit talking me behind my back, you know, people told me he was saying that my stream was dying. And I didn't know why he was saying something like that, because why would he be watching my stream? Or was it just completely made up to just get people who liked me or liked us both to turn against me? And that's why this video is not to get anyone to turn against one another. Like, you don't need to rally behind me, and you don't need to rally behind him. Honestly, you just have to make your own decisions. And the odd part was, at this time, I knew this now. He told someone the night he came over my house and I didn't respond was the night he gave up on me. And to this day, I still know what that meant, to be honest. Like, was I just supposed to stay in juice forever and never communicate with him? Was I supposed to, like, admit that everything was my fault? Because it definitely wasn't. And it took me a long time to see that. I'm not saying I'm not at fault completely, but I wasn't 100% at fault for what happened. People make mistakes, but, like, I don't know. And that's why it was odd. Like, if you gave up on me and you don't care, like, why are you still talking about me? Like, why are you telling people these things? I was just trying to move on, trying to get closure, trying to figure things out privately, like, just, you know, what happened. Because it was all kind of a whirlwind. And then recently, you know, I get kind of drugged back into it because I was still on the board for the Allied charity, which I didn't know. Which is why if you don't see me participating, it's just because I didn't know. And I had to think really long and hard on that, because while it is for Allied, I can always honor Allied in another way. I didn't know if I should go back to doing it alongside Juice, considering I'm not Juice anymore. I didn't know if I could work alongside Brandon, because things didn't end well between us. And I was upfront about that. I wasn't trying to cause problems. I was just upfront, like, I don't know if I can, but let me know the details of what this means to participate in this charity, and I'll think about it. And he gets mad at that. Like, the person who was talking to me tells him that, and he gets mad that I would, like, fit this opportunity back in his face because it'd be good on my resume and just shit like that. And it's just like, why do you care about it being good for my resume? Like, what? You know, none of this shit ever makes sense. Like, to this day, like, it'll probably never fucking make sense to me. Besides the fact that, like, all the fucking buzzwords, like, it's narcissism, it's this, it's that, like, that's the only closure that will ever come from this, is like, it's just narcissism. It's just but I don't know, man. It's not much closure, to be honest. And that's why I just want to make the video, and I just want to move on from this, because while I know this video is going to upset people, probably mostly the Juice kids and whoever decides to watch, I don't even know if they'll watch it, to be honest. It's my choice to make this. Like, no one's telling me to do this. This is my choice. Because it's really hard to move on from people you considered your family. And it's really hard to speak up against someone you loved and trusted. And I loved and trusted all of them. Through all of our mistakes, you know, like I said, not everyone's perfect. And if I ever did anything to upset anyone, I honestly, truly am sorry. I'm trying to reach out to who I can and apologize to who I know I've hurt. I've been very upfront and honest about that, because that's something that was hard for me to be upfront for a long time. So I ended up skirting around lines and trying not to, like, upset people and whatever. But that's in the past. I'm not like that anymore. So I don't know what's gonna happen after this video. I was always very proud of Brandon and how hard he worked. And I won't take that away from him. But what happened wasn't okay. And it happens to multiple people. And that'll be their choice to speak out if they want to or not. Because if we do something, we should be held accountable for it. And that doesn't mean someone has to go up in flames. It doesn't mean, you know, all the other shit. All these buzzwords that people throw around. I do believe people can redeem themselves and change and be good. Sorry, I'm not trying to... I really try to get through this and not be super emotional. I hope this video out there helps someone if they're going through something to be able to speak up. Even if it's not about this, if it's about something else, whatever you're going through in life, like I hope you can find the strength to speak up. Because finally being in the position to do it, so incredibly hard. But I'm hoping after this that I just can move on. And I learned that if you're afraid to speak up, it's probably because you should. So thank you guys for listening.